Thank you everybody, sorry about delay. Usual reminder before we start the meeting, please note this meeting is being recorded by the Town Council. Please note the recording device is sensitive and the recording cannot be edited. So do not say anything you do not want recorded. If necessary, I will direct all recording in the room to be stopped. But generally I want to avoid doing that, so we will normally record everything except any item taken in closed session. Members of the public may also make their own recordings and must follow our rules for doing so, including stopping the recording when requested. Whilst we do not accept anonymous speaking at the public forum, members of the public who wish to speak but who do not want their name published must please indicate this before saying their piece. Thank you. Straight on to item 1, apologies for absence.
Mayor, we have apologies from Councillor Robbins, Councillor Roach, Councillor Gary Stroud and Councillor Judy Stroud.
I've received direct apologies from Councillors Carr and Martin. Move on to item 2, declaration of interest request for dispensation. So there's been a request for dispensation?
None received.
Does anyone wish to declare an interest in any item on the agenda? No, thank you. Straight to item 3, councillors should have received a copy of the minutes of the meeting held on the 17th of March. Numbered from page 190 to page 193. Councillor, got those? Just for accuracy first, is anything on the first page, page 190? Anything on the second page, numbered 191? Anything on the third page, numbered 192? Do you all wish that I sign those as a true record of the meeting? All those in favour? Thank you. Item 4, any urgent matters arising. Are there any matters that members wish to raise? I've just one listed on the agenda at the Haverhill clock. Any other items? First page, page 190. Anything to raise on page 191, second page? Or the third page, 192? So we'll go straight to the C1403OB at the Haverhill clock. That's the clerk report.
Right, yes, well last time I said that the works would be concluded by the end of April barring any further delays, which unfortunately turned out to be rather fateful. The mechanism is all ordered and is under construction, but the hole in the ground, which will be relatively straightforward, having had a site meeting with the people from Kier, Suffolk Highways contractors, Kier redeployed the entire lot. So we had to start from scratch. We've talked to the borough and they've, as it's actually borough land, so we don't have to use highways to move people, and they suggested that we use a contractor in Haverhill who actually does contracting work for us anyway. So although it's put in a delay, which is highly irritating, we've got the updated drawings that Kier asked for on the site, which our contractor will need, but we can now use a Haverhill contractor. So there's a silver lining, albeit perhaps a thin one, but there is a silver lining to that.
Councillor Bowden.
Yeah, have they indicated the alternative contractor? Have they indicated when they will be able to do it?
It was only last week, I haven't been able to contact them.
Okay, and there was just one other point I'd like to make. I understand, since my inquiries about the clock and the contractor, that one contractor has been given the majority of contracts for work carried out by Suffolk County Council.
The highways?
Yeah, the highways. I think that is deplorable when you think of the area that they cover, and I think we should write to them and say that they should, well, my personal view is we should have at least 3. When you think of the vast area that Suffolk County Council cover, and we've got one contractor and we've got to rely on everyone turning up for work, nobody going sick, no one going on holiday, etc. I think it's outrageous and I think it's unacceptable. We pay our taxes to get things done.
Councillors can certainly will write to the County Council to ask them why there is only one contractor. I should warn you, there may be reasons, it may have been tendered and there may be other considerations here why there is a single contractor, but we can certainly ask the question. Councillor Turner.
May I paraphrase? We inquire as to why there's only one major contractor. So as you said, Maureen, it's only the one major contractor. There might be other smaller ones, and I don't want you to wiggle out of the answer if we've not phrased the question right.
Whatever Councillor Gray, I'm happy with them.
Are you clear?
Yeah, certainly, yes.
Thank you. Anything else on that matter? Adjourned standing orders for reports from various groups. I don't think we've got the police here. So I'll invite Councillor Brown.
Yeah. I've had an answer back from the portfolio holders at Highways to my question about when missing link to the footpath cycleway on the old railway walk in the city of Howe Road would be completed. He has assured me that it is a priority for the council and would be progressed with as soon as possible. They are awaiting the results of the wildlife survey, planning commission, some lighting that will come along, that will be along the footpath. On the same note, Suffolk County Council will be shortly publishing a cycling route map for the Haverhill area. Pleased to say that the lay-by on the bypass adjacent to Haverhill Road has now been temporarily closed and is awaiting the implementation of the traffic order to ban overnight lorry parking. They've used cones to block off the lay-by, which keep getting moved about. I have asked Highways to provide more robust barriers to do the job, which they are now looking to source as soon as possible. I've also chased additional signs averting drivers to the fact that there is a new road layout on Collins Road at Dudley Hill End. I've been promised this should be done this week. Glad to say that Suffolk County Council have now completed the cleaning of the white paintwork on bridges over Stour Brook. They look much better now. I have sent a note to thank people involved. And on a final note, as this is the last full council meeting before the elections, I would just like to personally thank the Mayor and the councillors for all their hard work over the last 2 years that I have been around, and so special thanks to the town clerk and his staff that do so much for the town, mostly behind the scenes. Thanks so much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Councillor Flood.
I had an informal meeting with the director of one of the important people in Haverhill, put it that way as I see somebody's writing, and I forcefully put forward our suggestion that they put pressure on the county, as we are, to release brownfield land in Haverhill and to build on there and to leave our estates alone. She took my points with interest, is how I would describe it. And we will continue to push the matter, because trying to squeeze more houses on the estates when the county owns 20 acres of brownfield land in the town is unacceptable. And thank you for all your cooperation, ladies and gentlemen, as we go into the election. And I hope whoever the new town council is, that we get on as well as we have the last 2 years.
Thank you, Councillor Flood. Councillor Brown.
Yeah, I just like to support what Councillor Flood has just said. However, you know, hoping that they take notice, I'm probably not as confident as yourself, because they have appealed the Nayland Road project. All they've done is reduced it from 6 to 4. We are hoping that that appeal is not successful, and we should know within the next couple of weeks. When I made inquiries, they said 4 to 6 weeks, and that was about 3 weeks ago. But they've appealed that. They are going to absolutely decimate that beautiful estate just to build for small houses on it. So I hope you're successful, and I hope whoever is on the town council that they continue with that pressure on Haverhill.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Councillor Gooding.
Just to pick up on what Councillor Brown said, the Hollands Road has been marked with some white hatching, but it doesn't go quite far enough because there's still a vehicle parking at the far end of it before the road goes back to 2 lanes. So
I think Councillor Brown's remarks were about the actual road junction at the roundabout, removing the city arrangement of lanes.
Yes.
And making it 2
that's been done. There's only 2 lanes
No,
there.
it hasn't been done, I think.
Yeah.
It has,
It has,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. But basically what's happened, they didn't put any signs of warning on the junction's changed, so it's 4 or 5 weeks ago. We've been chasing it since then. We still haven't done it. Hopefully it's going to be done this week. Yeah.
Councillor Brown, thanks for Councillor Lee, I apologise for this. Questions from the public then? Mr Burns?
Tony and Junior just took my thunder away, so I'll read it out.
You've got nothing to say then, thank you very much.
Having sat listening and occasionally making comment at most town council meetings for the last 2 years or so, and regardless of what ever happens Thursday week, the work undertaken by councillors of all political persuasions on the town council has been well appreciated by me, if not everybody else. For those who are not standing in the game for whatever reason, can I thank them for their service, which, as we all know, is done totally as a volunteer. For those that are standing for re-election, or those standing for the first time, then I wish you all the best for next week. To Roger and Maureen, and perhaps with sympathies to their better halves, Pauline and Jim, thank you for your sterling work in representing the town as Mayor and Deputy Mayor respectively. For the existing borough councillors who do actually represent and support the town rather than some alternative master in Bury, again I express my personal thanks. I wish them, and those standing anew, as many votes next week as they can gather, as long as not more than me, of course. Finally, my thanks to Colin, Vicky and the crew behind the scenes who support not just the council and councillors but the townspeople throughout the year, including answering often inane or perhaps insane questions from yours truly.
Gordon.
Can I ask, I've observed where I live, I'm in Nicholson Place at the end, with a big green running out. I've observed over the last few months, there's been a lot of, I'm not technical, sorry you've been taking the glass and the thing on the open green. 3 times they've taken, I've noticed they use this equipment before they actually do build various things on subways. The green running up from between Nicholson, I think it's Overton, I don't really know which one. So, is this site in any way under threat from construction?
It's not something we've had at planning or that I'm aware of, and
It's just
nobody else is
curious,
aware
why
of.
did you come out?
So your concern is that there may be development about to happen on the
Yes, I've just
basis.
noticed 3 times now that they've had their buildings out taking, pardon?
Theodolite.
Yeah, I'm not technical, sorry, I'm blaming on this, but notice that sort of the sightings, and I know that on building sites they use this equipment.
Thank you, so you'll be aware that there is a planning meeting next Tuesday, and we'll ask the town clerk to make inquiries in advance if there's anything available. Thank you for your attendance. Other members of the public? Any other members of the public? Questions? Okay, we'll revert to standing orders again. Item 5, report back on 1 Haverhill. Ask the town clerk to start us.
Following the consultation meeting, a letter was sent to David Lock Associates and copied to the borough, setting out the issues that were raised. So that's what we've done.
We have been advised that the consultation accrued 212 firm responses. That didn't sound very much to us, but apparently a similar exercise over a much wider area attracted only 70 a few years ago, and both the consultants and the borough have said that this is a very good response and much more than was expected. You need to know, in addition to that, there are lots of people who came along to the various exhibitions and made comments. The 212 is just the people who actually filled in the questionnaire, either online or submitted them by post. It's felt to have been a successful consultation, but you need to bear in mind this was only the consultation on what should be presented for the final consultation. So we would expect an even heartier response to the final consultation, which starts shortly, I think, but the documents will be drawn up. Councillor Beck.
Yes, just on, for those of you that aren't aware, there was a delay at one of the development control meetings in the borough on a decision about a particular building owned by Mr Gertine. I think it was building 8, the Northern Lights building, I think it's called. Now we were hoping that the consultants were going to have some liaison with Mr Gertine and his people, because he was obviously very cross that we put this delay on, but because the consultant said they want to retain as much heritage as they possibly could in Haverhill, that we thought it was an opportunity for the two to have some dialogue. And I'm just asking the town clerk, have you heard anything from them that they've had dialogue with Mr Gertine and his team?
We did put a reference to the same thing in the letter from the town council. I haven't heard back anything from...
Could we make an inquiry, please, if the committee agree?
I think it might be helpful to tell councillors this further preliminary consultation was about identifying issues and options. It is during the next phase that people will need to come back and make it clear to the consultants and to everybody what we expect to be in the master plan, and that in particular each site will be an important point of reference, I would think, for many people.
Can I just say, Chair, I totally agree with you and support that. However, if it comes up at the next development and control meeting, which it will do, and this dialogue has not happened, then I think, depending who then is on development and control, may say, well, let's support Mr Gertine and it will be demolished. So there is sort of a bit of urgency before the next borough meeting. So that's why I'm just raising it now and not once the second consultation is in progress.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Turner.
I seem to remember that when we went through this at the planning committee presentation, we were in favour of their proposal overall because it opened up that space. So as the town council in the planning committee, there was a consensus of we were interested in seeing that happen. They were retaining as many of the Northern Light buildings as they could, but getting rid of, I think it was, as you said, Maureen, building number 8, which is one of those several that they've got there. It cleared the site and allowed the development to open up, and then all the access could be done and all the other things.
Councillor Bowden.
Yeah, just to come back to Councillor Turner, we had no objections to the demolishing of the other sheds at that point that were identified. I can't tell you off the top of my head what they were, but we wanted shed number 8 left and not demolished until the dialogue and the consultation had been exhausted. So it didn't stop them to start the demolition, but it was about protecting that particular build.
It would appear that the issue still remains very much a matter on which the public need to be consulted, and the decision that was made by the Town Council's Planning Committee was based on information available at that time. It's clear there are people who have other views, and those views ought to be included in consultation. I'm not clear, however, how we're going to get that back to development and control in time for their meeting, because the consultation hasn't effectively started. What we probably need to do is to consider whether we should request development and control to delay the decision even further, which I'm afraid may not please the developers, but this is a very long-term plan and we have to take a long-term view.
Yeah.
Is it your wish that we contact development and control as a town council and ask them to consider delaying?
Yeah, it's not on the agenda this month.
But we can make our view known that we would expect the consultation to be completed before the decision is made.
It's in the long-term interests of the town. Definitely. It's not exactly a reversible decision if they knock it down.
Can we move on to item 5B, which I think was a town clerk again, I'm sorry.
Yes, it's just basically to inform councillors, as you may come across it in other places, other councils. County Council Highways are looking at how they can support communities in a similar way to our community clean-up and community ambassadors. They've chosen 3 areas to pilot, seeing how they can support community action. Halesworth, Ipswich, and a little bit of persuasion from Claire Harvey. Haverhill has been put on that list. Community ambassadors work, of course, is very helpful, and the work that we've done with community clean-up means that there's a little bit of a head start here, and The County Council just wanted you to be aware of that, so if it happens to get mentioned in your issue elsewhere, that's what that project is. We're obviously, this council has already agreed to take community ambassadors under their wing. This will just provide a little extra dimension to the sorts of things they can be doing, and hopefully engage some more people, doing what they're already doing, but also perhaps a bit more as well with support from County Council Highways.
Have they given any indication when this pilot project will commence?
They are waiting until after the elections, so I can imagine sometime in June.
I have the next town council support the council.
Yeah, Colin mentioned about a little bit extra, but what are these little bit extras?
Well, it's stuff they might be doing already, but it's in terms of actually getting the equipment and support from the County Council, and the same way the borough supporters. So, for instance, cutting back, say, on highways where footpaths get encroached on with grass growing over, just the tools to cut along there rather than have to actually provide themselves, to actually get those straight from the highways major contractors we mentioned earlier, being imposed upon by the County Council to provide those pieces of equipment and material in order to get things also clearing up afterwards in the same way the borough did for the community clean-up. It's quite good actually, because actually get the County Council to be interested in supporting community action. They don't normally come down from on high to do anything like that, so it's good news.
I would advise councillors that when Deputy Mayor and I met with a group of people to originate the clean-up campaign and to make it roll on, whilst the borough contractors were quite keen to assist, the county highways people weren't at all cooperative. I welcome the chance to engage them fully. Hopefully they've woken up and smelt the coffee. Councillor.
Yeah, I think I would like to come in again, Chair, I'm sorry, but there was to be this clean-up on the Clements estate during the Easter holiday. It was all agreed, locality budget, money from myself was going to be put in for refreshments. Residents were going to be able to meet in the community centre to raise their concerns about litter and stuff that was being dumped and how it affected them on a day-to-day basis. There was going to be massive bins put in place on that day and people encouraged to bring out any big items that they had. We were also going to print leaflets and literature in various languages because there was some multi-tenancy property where it was particularly worse, where people were putting the wrong stuff in the wrong bin and probably didn't understand what bin was for what. And about 2 weeks before it was to happen, I got a phone call to say that the people that had committed themselves from Suffolk County Council found that they had more important things to do, but it will happen during the summer. Now, to me, that's not satisfactory. Once this committee met and they made that decision, and what made it even worse, I personally made a point of meeting the different groups that use the Leaston Centre, many of them that were really concerned about what was being dumped and rat infestation and all the rest of it. I shared that with that community and told them what was going to happen, and then had to go and tell them. And they said, oh, Clements again, not important enough. So it was not a very successful exercise at that time. And I'd like, Colin, if you would, to say that we want that to happen as a priority, please.
Thank you, Councillor Byrne. I share your concern that we appear to have not succeeded in getting this off the ground quickly. I have to say, however, this wasn't the responsibility of the County Council. The officers dealing with it were Edmondsbury officers.
Okay.
And the officers directly concerned are engaged in the consultation and have also become involved in the arrangements for the elections. I fear it was inevitable that April wasn't going to happen. We were sure. I'm surprised she's told you some. My expectation was that this would be shortly after the elections when officers were free. It's reasonable to assume the officers acted in good faith, and I have to say, one of the problems is there are an awful lot of organisations involved in that event. It's far from just a few of us. Lots of agencies in the town are going to be engaged, and there was a fair amount of work to be done. in the circumstances, I think it's important it still happens, and as soon as possible. I share your concern that it shouldn't be left till summer. We need to get this event underway during May or early June at the latest.
Well, I will contact Lizzie because she clearly
It
sent a
doesn't
strong
have to make the
message today.
officers, the officers are busy, you know.
Yeah.
Councillor Turner.
Yeah, if it does move on a little bit into the summer, it might be worth considering, I'm assuming this will happen over a weekend typically, that when we have the open air meetings in the summer, that a Friday of those meetings is time to coincide with the start of that, so that it can be kicked off properly.
The expectation was that town councils would be involved, and ward councils would be involved during the event. Not specifically as an open air event, but there for the whole duration to deal with any issues.
This would fit with that. So.
Thank you. Anything else? Item 16, adoption of committee reports. A, note the appeals committee have not met. B, the finance committee, we should have copies of the finance committee minutes. First page number 32, 1 through to 35. Who asked to adopt these minutes? Yeah. Those in favour? Leisure and Community Committee, no, Leisure and Community Committee has not met since the last meeting of the Board Council, but the Ryan Council meets for the last time next Tuesday. Personnel Committee, the Personnel Committee has not met since the last meeting. And finally, Planning Committee, adoption of the minutes of the Planning Committee held on the 31st of March and 23rd of April. One starts at 185 and goes to 189, and the other starts at 190 and goes to 193.
I move to adopt both of them.
Councillor Goody, seconded by Councillor Turner. For those in favour of adopting, thank you. Thank you very much. Item 7, to authorise payments. One councillor, as usual, these are schedules of payments that have been signed off by 2 councillors or signatories to the account. All schedules have accompanied them and they've been checked for the accuracy of the invoices submitted. Asking for authorisation of the checklist on this. Item 8, to note the timetable for internal and external audit. Do you want to say anything to this, or want you just to say the dates?
Yes, it's next week is the internal audit, so we are working hard to make sure that we close down the accounts this week for the year end, so everything's ready. The notice for people to wish to inspect the accounts went up on time as prescribed by the external auditor, so everything is on track as we go ahead.
Any questions? No, move on to item 9. As this is our last full council meeting of the year, I'd like to personally express my thanks to all the councillors who have served throughout the 5-year period, to express my thanks to all the other people who have made it possible, not least the council staff and officers, and particularly the town clerk who's taken over at a very difficult time. And I would remind you some of the challenges we faced over the 5 years. We have had
4 years.
Gordon Mussett, Will Austin, our local, whose name escapes me, I'm afraid, Bob Whitton, and now we've had all those town clerks during this time. All have served us tremendously well, and it's been a great time to be a town councillor in Haverhill. Thank you for your support, thank you for your unstinting service, and thank you on behalf of the people of Haverhill who I know are equally grateful for the work we've done. It may not always seem so, and we didn't always get it right, but most of the time we did. Thank you. Item 10, to receive urgent correspondence. Is there any urgent correspondence?
I have one bit, I think, Councillor.
Yes. Yes, a couple of weeks ago, Brian Mills of the British Legion came to me and he said that he'd been to the town hall and the receptionist said that Colin wasn't here. What he wanted was details on whether we were going to do anything for the VA celebrations, VE celebrations, street parties, etc. I said, well, it's the weekend of the election. Probably, probably not much going on at all. So yeah, I was reading something I put in the paper. There hasn't been much response so far. It's early days, I suppose. But generally, just wanted to know if we were doing anything.
The VE celebrations are largely centred on Bury this year. Part of the reason for that is that all the armed forces that are associated with the county, in fact, go to that Bury one. And to get hordes of people here would be quite difficult. I don't think it's our place to actually substitute events or duplicate events that are going on at Bury. And I would urge anyone who wants to join us in celebrating the VE Day celebrations. Bury is the place to do it where there is much space there.
As the mayor, are you attending that?
I'm attending one. There are several events. I'm attending one of the events.
I think he was thinking more of basic celebrations rather than presentations.
I understand what you're saying, but the unfortunate thing is most of the organisations we work with on these things go to a place where there's a celebration. To ask them to go from there and to do another one and do another one, just the very colour parties causes a problem for them. So we haven't, the Town Council hasn't traditionally tried to compete with those events, hence the cooperative nature of the remembrance service events. If councillors are minded to, we do have a very nice memorial in East Town Park, which will provide a suitable place to conduct any ceremony that we chose. And it may be councillors will be minded to consider whether we ought to place anything on that memorial. But that's a matter for community and leisure, I think, to consider. Do councillors have another view?
What I've suggested is people do their own thing. Just put a bit of bunting up and have a picnic. If they want to do that,
So 11 a.m. I believe Angel Hill.
Councillor Turner.
That's it. Perhaps our members of the press who are here recording things can mention this and say that if there is sufficient interest, they need to represent that interest to the Town Council for community and leisure and say that they'd like to have something in Haverhill particularly. I'm well aware that in the time since we first started arrangements for the 11th of November, the town's grown considerably, and it might be appropriate to revisit what we do here in the town for such celebrations and commemorations in future.
street parks is a lovely way of having people get to know each other. There's no rules about licenses for the street parks because you're not charging anything. You don't have liability insurance because everyone's going there on their own steam and they're not paying anything again. So it's an easy one, really. But I think people have to do it themselves, really, on this one.
Yeah, I've just come back on that, actually. If it's a street, then I'm afraid you have to have permission from the borough to lock it off.
No,
and
you don't have to lock it off. That's what I've said in the letter, and what's in the instructions in this book I've been given, is you only have to have a license to close the road if you're going to close the road. But it's best to notify the police if you're having a party, obviously, because there are extra people there. But that's what it says in the book I've been given by the British Legion.
I'm looking for a proposal, Councillor Cratchit. What are you proposing?
I propose that we support anyone that asks us for support. Locally in their own, councils, area councils, if they want to support it, if they're asked, would they support it?
Yeah, actually, can I just, we're talking about, I think the mayor, the chair's talking about one sort of event that's ceremonial, but you're talking more about residents putting on something with neighbours and whatever.
I'm very aware of the official celebrations.
Yeah, I think we could put out a communication to say if people want to plan a celebration in their neighbourhood, if they need any support or advice, then we can give it.
Yes.
I don't think there's much we can do in terms of providing, but if they want some advice and guidance and you've got the book that tells you what you can and can't do, that would be helpful.
I can photocopy of the simple rules,
yeah,
basic stuff, and they can have a copy. Very welcome to it.
And I think the point the mayor, what Clive's made, that the press is here.
Yes.
maybe you could have a word with them afterwards and ask them to do another.
Well, the Echo very kindly has already.
Oh, they
noticed
have.
that.
Okay.
So it's a proposal that the council makes it, the community aware that it will support
Yes.
the
It's
celebrations.
Friday.
Yeah.
It's a week on Friday. It's not
Yeah.
really an awful lot of opportunity for us.
Well, it's the whole
What
weekend,
support we
yeah.
can during that time.
Yeah.
I've suggested Sunday afternoon, say, for a picnic party where the recreation ground is or something like that. They want to go take a picnic and just put some banners.
So you're now asking us to arrange an event?
No, I'm asking the people to do their own event.
And we'll support those
everyone
events
to
as far as we
buy.
can.
Yeah.
Okay. And we'll ask the town clerk to...
It's too late, I know, to organise anything official.
Thank you for that. Something you had?
Yes, just let the council be aware that we've had communication from the Suffolk Pension Fund regarding the ill health liability insurance that we pay. This is to cover the potential liability on pensions should ever we have anyone who goes off on sick retirement. It's nothing new, it's been going on for quite some time, but just so you're aware, it has come through this year. The balance due is £3,315 and 3p. That's just come through, so we will process that. We'll see that come out in the checklist, but just so you're aware in advance.
Questions? No, thank you. And that concludes the public part of the meeting. Thank you for your attendance, both now and during the previous 4 years.